Today we have a crazy entitled parent story of clingy and controlling parents. We'll get into that in a bit, but first, on the verge of quitting my live-in nanny job. I, female 21, recently got a job as a live-in nanny and already am regretting it. First off, I'm paid weekly and I'm supposed to have a set amount of hours, but for the time that I've worked here, it's always been more. The dad is always out of town for work, and the mom will invite me to do activities with the kids as like family time, but then it will basically be me babysitting them. Also not counted in my hours is me doing a deep clean of the house once a week, going through the entire house and taking the trash out, cleaning up daily after the kids and parents, washing and folding laundry, including bed laundry for the entire house, emptying and filling up the dishwasher daily, and grocery shopping once a week. Speaking of grocery shopping, I send a list of each meal I'm making for the kids to them and tell them that I used the leftovers from dinner for school for the next day. And multiple times they've used the ingredients for themselves, or eaten the leftovers before I have time to make or pack up the food for the kids. They also will regularly go out for drinks and to do stuff after the kids are asleep, hours after I'm off, and bring me the baby monitor until they're back. Although they do say if I text them to come back, they will. This takes an extra at least 6 hours that I don't get paid for. The mom also asks me to do extra tasks for no extra pay. For example, she asked me to go through 4 huge containers of kids' clothes that her friends gave to her and organize it and put it away, along with going through their closet and cleaning out summer things. Today, she asked me how does my day look. I assume she was just chatting with me, but she then asks me to pick up the kids when I was only supposed to work a couple of hours in the morning, which takes 2 hours altogether from school because, and I quote, "it takes a long time and she doesn't feel like doing it." A big reason I wanted this job is because they had an Airbnb that I was going to manage for an extra amount of money, but they just told me they're selling it, which they've said they've been thinking about for a couple of months, which is before I was hired, but told me during the interview that that was a big part of the job. I'm very interested in hospitality and stuff like that, so I thought this would have been a great opportunity, along with the extra money, of course, as I'm saving. I know this is kind of my fault and I should stick up for myself, but I'm so scared if I do, they might retaliate or kick me out, and my closest family is a few hours away. So I definitely think it's important for OP to communicate their wants and desires, but you definitely have to be smart about it as best as you can. Kitty Occult commented, "Sounds like you live in a high cost of living area. Put out feelers for other families in the neighborhood, request a meeting, then write out bullet points on examples of where your time is being spent versus what was agreed upon. Mention how you love the house but feel taken advantage of, then talk about how great the kids are. It's called a compliment sandwich, lightens the load. Run through the bullet points without giving them time to interject. When they both act surprised, immediately pack up and head the few hours back to the family because you're being treated in a very classist way. There are more wealthy families that will provide more care for a 21-year-old and act more as a mentor than people who will step on you. Even if you cry or your voice shakes, do not stop. You have got this. You're brave. They need you way more than you need them. They know they're taking advantage of you and that you're young and are scared to speak up. If you threaten to leave, they will scramble as it's more difficult to find and hire a live-in nanny than it is to keep you. Trust me, you have the upper hand. You can ask for a much higher raise for the additional hours you have to work and start clocking in, or you can walk away. Don't let these people ruin nannying for you. I promise there's another more wealthy family that will treat you better. You just gotta put some feelers out. OP responded saying, yes, they are very wealthy. I'm super scared to say anything to them though. I'm not sure why. I also wondered why they would hire a 21-year-old with the amount of money they have and not someone with a degree and a lot of experience. The thing is, in our contract, it says I'm in charge of regular tidying. I thought it was just for the kids, but should have clarified, so I guess I can't really use that as a talking point. Also, hi, I'm Steven, and if you guys enjoy crazy stories of entitled parents, why not hit those like and subscribe buttons down below? That said, our next story is, my sister is poor and my parents hate that I'm not. I'm from a country in South America and moved to the US over a decade ago in my 20s. Since then, I've gotten married, had children, and have a pretty good life with my husband. We're both immigrants, work corporate jobs, and make a decent living. My sister and I are pretty close and talk to each other often. Financially speaking, she has a pretty rough life and still lives in said country. She doesn't bring it up a lot in our conversations, but I'm always sympathetic of her situation whenever she mentions something related to that. I should mention that she's married and has children. She's also 8 years older than me. I help my sister with a monthly stipend to go towards her children's education. However, this has been an issue with my husband, which is of the opinion that when you help people out on a consistent basis, they feel entitled to that help, and you're hurting them more than you're helping. So I stick to strictly providing help with the education part mentioned, and during emergencies, if possible. Now, the reason I'm posting this is because every once in a while, my parents will try to guilt trip me into helping my sister more financially, more than I already do. They mention things like, "Your sister is in such a dire situation. Poor thing, she's suffering. They have such a hard life and you know she's family, so she needs your help." And always with those Puss in Boots sad eyes. For some reason, it always feels kind of manipulative and bothers me every time. Today we had a conversation, and my dad brought up that she needs help paying for some extra fees for her kid's school, and that she didn't tell me because she feels ashamed. And then he proceeds to give me the whole usual spiel of her being in need and I need to help because she's family and the only sister she has. I replied that I can help with part of the fees, but I'm not gonna pay for the entire thing. I also told him that it feels as if you're trying to make me feel guilty and I already help her however I'm able to, and her situation is not my fault. Now, even though I said this, I'm still left feeling like it bothers me and hurts me that they don't think I do enough for her. I'm of the belief that help should come from within, and nobody should be coerced or manipulated into helping someone else. How can I approach this with my parents in a way that makes them understand that I don't appreciate the sense of manipulation that I feel when they say stuff like that? It's like deep down I know I'm justified to feel this way, but if I bring it up, they say that's not their intention and that I'm misinterpreting the whole thing. I feel as though I owe my family just for the fact of having a better financial position. And many times I don't want to say that I bought something because they hint that I could be helping my sister with that money instead, but that's not my philosophy. What do you make of this? How would you approach your parents in this situation if it were you? I'd like to know what you guys think in the comments about a situation like this, but if it were me, knowing me, I would probably be pulling back and trying to swallow this up kind of like OP's doing. It would be great to communicate though and almost set them straight, but the fact is, they want your money. Bun Buns and Love commented, "Your parents should be the ones providing for her. If they're so sad about her and their grandchildren's situation, you've emigrated. It's outrageous to ask you to provide for her from so far away. I'm an immigrant who left my country 25 years ago, and life is hard enough trying to fit in. I'm never supporting people who are basically locals with all the help of their country and local families can provide. They made their choices, I made mine, and both involved great risks, like having children while poor, or searching for a decent job while being a foreign, poor, and single woman. They take the responsibilities like I had to do myself. Even if it got better for me later, it was only the result of my efforts. I deserved it." OP responded saying, "I totally agree with you. The point about making your choices and living with the consequences is so accurate for better or worse. That's sort of my case. I came here, went to school, and slowly got my start, and made a career here over the years. With that said, my parents do help her financially even more than they'd probably want to admit." Our next story is, Entitled Parent destroyed the relationship between me and my brother. Growing up, my twin brother was always difficult for my parents, which I completely understand. It's not easy to manage both children at the same time. Finance being one of the main issues, paying for everything, be it education, at the same time was very tough and hard to manage other things in life. I totally get it, them being first-time parents and suddenly they have to invest energy, finance, and taking care of both siblings simultaneously, which is not an easy job. The worst part started when we were both compared for doing each and everything and shouted and abused at due to the difference in competitiveness and not being equal. Like, I was doing well in exams, whereas my brother was not. The only thing they knew to deal with was physical and verbal abuse in order to control, parent us, and manage both at the same time. And this continued until I got out of the house. Parents favored me more than him as I was their favored one, and he was always treated a little differently. So due to this, I was never really open to him and neither was he. We started having different friends and joined different colleges. This created a lot of gap between us to the point that he sometimes trusts his friends more than me. Hardly ever calls to check up with me. I don't even remember celebrating birthdays in a good mood. I don't even remember the deep conversations we had or any other things or feelings he shared with him about his life. Although he never reciprocates to whatever interest I show in conversation with him. Realized it later that I'm having mental health issues growing up in a dysfunctional family with entitled parents, for which I'm on medication, and I truly know that he's going through the same mental health issues, or worse, to which he doesn't care much and doesn't take mental health seriously. He still hasn't healed from the wounds the way my parents treated him and lives in somewhat fear and takes decisions on the basis of it. I just don't know. We hardly share any deep bonding, and sometimes I feel like we're more like colleagues who grew up under one roof. Neither does he or I have any good relationship with our parents after the way they treated us and are only in minimal contact. Did anyone experience similar where parents have destroyed the relationship among siblings? At this point, I don't even know whether we would become close in the future or just continue being brother for namesake who hardly share any bonding. So I would just say I think it definitely in this situation comes down to OP establishing and trying to maintain that communication, especially if it's true what OP said about the brother not really caring about mental health. OP knows they're going through a hard time. If they want that relationship, OP's probably going to have to shoulder most of the load to get there. Dedo123 commented, "You said he hardly ever calls to check on you. How much do you call and make an effort to check up on him? If you've tried for a while and received no reciprocation, I think you should just let it be. You can't try and build a bridge from one side with no help on the other." OP responded, "There has been no initiative from his end. It's been from one end, me calling him for a while, all the time and hardly any reciprocation from his end, and so I've stopped doing it. We still need to work on a lot of emotional maturity, and he has no idea of something like it, and no interests in improving on those, and neither wants to get healed from childhood wounds." Our next story is, Father Nearly Cancels Make-A-Wish Trip. I've been on this sub a long time, and I figured it was about time I finally had my own story. I'll try to make this quick and avoid oversharing, but basically, when I was 17, I went into cardiac arrest driving home from school. Miraculously, my car just drifted off the road and grazed a tree, leaving my then limp dead body mostly free from harm. I was told that had I still been conscious, or alive really, I may have ended up being injured far worse. Anyways, the person behind me stopped their car and called an ambulance, which, in another incredible stroke of luck, happened to be parked on the street I crashed on. There was a sheriff on scene who I got to talk to after this all went down and I was up and moving around again. He told me that because of my long hair, I'm a guy, the ambulance assumed it was a drug overdose and Narcaned me twice. After that didn't work, they finally used the defibrillators and brought me back on their second try. First time they brought me back, they lost me. This part of the story is getting too long, but basically I had an SICD put in, and to this day, I haven't had any problems with my heart. Soon after my accident, my dad contacted Make-A-Wish and they were happy to grant me a wish. As a 17-year-old who was freshly out of a car, that was my first idea for a wish. And I don't remember the exact reasoning, but they asked me to pick something else. My next idea was to travel, but seeing as how when this happened we were fresh out of the pandemic, Make-A-Wish had a huge back catalog of travel wishes and they weren't doing international travel at the time. Eventually, I came to the idea of going to meet a girl I'd been talking to on the internet. And from the point I decided to go see her, our relationship became a lot more serious. Some of the adults in my life were suspicious and people loved to poke fun at my online long-distance relationship, but in this day and age with Snapchat and FaceTime, it's pretty easy to confirm that someone is who they say they are. Anyway, I talked about it with my wish granters, though I just referred to my now girlfriend as a friend because I was a nervous teenager, and they loved the idea of me using my wish to not meet someone famous, but to meet a friend. We didn't officially start dating until we met, but I'll refer to her as my girlfriend. Since there was such a long list of kids who wished for travel, and since I was pretty much as healthy as you can get being a Make-A-Wish kid, I ended up having to wait several months before I got to go. The lead up was agonizing and my girlfriend and I were so excited to meet. This is where my dad started with his bull crappery. Make-A-Wish had offered to set up some things for us to do together while I was visiting. For context, she lives in California, which is a long way away from my home state of Maine, and has a lot more interesting stuff to do, and my dad thought this was a great idea. Me, on the other hand, all I wanted was to meet my girlfriend and spend as much time as I could with her. I didn't need to go to Disney or Universal, and neither did she. We were just looking forward to each other. My dad and my stepmom were both going to be coming along for the trip, and they decided that it would be better if we planned as much stuff to do as possible, even if we didn't end up doing it. Mostly so that they, my parents, would have something to do while I was with my girlfriend. The way I saw it, they were trying to squeeze every penny they could out of Make-A-Wish. To me, this felt wrong. I know that lots of Make-A-Wish kids survive, but I knew that I was a mostly healthy individual who didn't necessarily need this opportunity as other kids might. So I just wanted to go and see my girlfriend and not spend any of Make-A-Wish's money that I didn't have to. My dad was furious when I told him this. I can't remember the full conversation, lots of yelling, I have memory problems from the whole dying thing, and also my mind probably blocked it out because I hate yelling, and long story short, he threatened to cancel my Make-A-Wish trip if I didn't plan the trip around making sure that my dad was entertained the whole time. He and my stepmom were staying in a nice hotel the whole trip. I was supposed to, I think, but I ended up staying at my girlfriend's house, and I'm pretty sure they had some pocket money from Make-A-Wish to do some stuff while they were here. But that wasn't enough for them. In the end, not wanting to lose out on this opportunity, I let my dad have control of the trip, and he had me tell him a bunch of stuff I wanted to do while I was there. There was a whole itinerary of different activities for them, and even then, after Make-A-Wish said that Disney was not available as an option currently, they ended up going to Disney with the money out of their own pockets. More evidence that they didn't need Make-A-Wish's money. My stepmom ended up not feeling well while we were there and didn't want to go anywhere. So my dad, after continuously telling them that we did not want to go do any of the things he planned, shows up to my girlfriend's house unannounced early in the morning to try to get us to go with him to SeaWorld. We didn't go, we know how they treat those animals, and he told us he had a good time with the dolphins. A few months after my trip, I graduated high school, quit my job, and moved across the country to be with my girlfriend. And I haven't talked to my dad since I left. If you think I'm overreacting, he had a long history of verbal and psychological abuse as well as neglect for all his children, not just me. I was the third and final kid of his to grow up and decide I don't need him in my life anymore. I didn't do a very good job at making this quick, but thank you for reading all the way here if you did. To be honest, I'm actually surprised how often I hear a story like this where a charity gets completely manipulated and steamrolled by the parents' wishes. I don't know what the solution is, but you would definitely like to see them figure out some kind of way that gets the kid isolated and they just talk about exactly what that kid wants. Tuna Tofu commented, "The charity is finally getting wise to those parents who swear their dying 8-year-old wants a Caribbean cruise or a minivan." One dad took the kid's wish to get Super Bowl tickets for him and 3 buddies. The kid's mom blew the whistle on that little scam and the kid got to go see a Broadway play just as he wanted all along. OP responded saying, "I'm fortunate that my dad just made my trip about him instead of straight up deciding what to do with my wish. Since I was going to see my girlfriend, I was able to just stay with her the whole time and not have to deal with half of my wish that wasn't really my wish." I'm still flabbergasted at what my dad did and that there's even more parents who try to take advantage of Make-A-Wish even more than my parents did. I'll never understand wanting to take so much from such a wonderful organization. Our next story is, am I crazy? So for context, my boyfriend and I have been together for 6 years. We've been through some crazy stuff. Pandemic, physical and mental illness in both parties, and other crazy rides. We decided not to hurry to get married because 1, we're still very young, and 2, we're still just having fun, and now that all of the crazy crap passed, we're having actual discussions about wanting to be married. It's been great. My boyfriend is very quiet and awkward. He's the youngest and always sort of beat to his own drum, but I love it about him because it brings a sense of innocence and he's always been so gentle and very kind. Recently, July 12th to be exact, we joined the rest of my family for a week-long vacation at their beach house. My sister brought her boyfriend, whom she just moved in with, along with my brother and my parents. So, big group. Trip went super great until like halfway through when my parents started behaving very weird towards him. My mom barely acknowledged him unless absolutely necessary. My dad, the same and also very short and nasty. And even my grandmother, who visited at one point, was short with him. At the end of the trip, when we went to leave, my boyfriend went to get the car and my mom says in front of my entire family, "Yes, he's gone, you can stay now." I never wanted to leave more than in that moment. My mom denied any problems until about a week after the trip, when I finally asked her if she and my father still liked him. She said, "Well, there are some things that we're seeing that we don't like," so I asked her to share them with me. She said, well, I'd like to tell you in person. I am always prying information out of this woman, so I said, nope, you can tell me today over FaceTime. We get on FaceTime and she gives me explanations that I honestly can't understand. They feel he is too quiet, and because of this, he doesn't want to be a part of the family. They're basically, in a nutshell, ticked that we aren't married yet. She said a bunch of other stuff like he spends too much money on his old cars that he works on, spent some time ripping on his family, ex. I basically told her everything she wanted to hear and then spent the next few weeks in therapy. I told my boyfriend all the screwed up crap they said, and instead of getting super angry, he suggested we host them for dinner. We both feel like they like my sister's boyfriend way better because he isn't socially awkward and is very loud and obnoxious. So we felt maybe some one-on-one time would help. We had the dinner, and it went okay, but I could tell afterwards that it really made no impact in their eyes. And my sister keeps saying, well, I'm proud that mom finally told you how she felt. And they've been talking behind your back for years, and I'm glad it finally came out. Okay, great, but you treated my boyfriend like absolute crap for no reason, and you're punishing both of us because he's too quiet? They're so hyper-focused on his family and what they're doing. My mom said they're hurt because we spend so much time with them. Well, yeah, because they're loving and don't make me or him feel weird. My dad is so cold and lifeless around my boyfriend. It takes two to cultivate a relationship. He's basically mad that he can't connect with him, even though he hasn't tried to extend a branch on his end once. This kid has done so much for my family. He built my dad an axe throwing board out of homemade supplies for Xmas last year. He talks to my sister regularly to give her life advice. He tries so hard. I even asked all of my friends, am I crazy? Is there something wrong with him? And they all love him. It's just them. I decided to just start taking space. I haven't been as available, and I'm protecting my privacy and not giving them any kind of key into our life. As much as I want to confront them, I just don't have the energy to fight. I just want to be left alone. I'm happy. They also like to try and gaslight me in that area. Are you happy? We just want to make sure you're happy. They've also taken the liberty of sharing all this with everyone. I had dinner with my uncle last week and he made a comment like, how was vacation? How did X get along with your parents? Like, are you kidding? Why are they benching to everyone? Now everyone else will hate him too. They also use things over my head like, well, we paid for all his meals down there and he barely spoke to us. I hate when the money stuff is sold over my head like that because we don't ask for it. They offer and then put up a fight when we try and help out. I just feel alone. I feel like no one understands how screwed up their behavior was. Am I nuts? I just kind of feel like OP's sister and their partner fit the parents' ideals and expected behavior, and because you and or your boyfriend don't, they're gonna treat you like outcasts and treat you like the weird ones. It's almost like a childish bullying thing until you can somehow fit in line with their vision of how you should be. Still Stuck in the Past commented, I went through a similar situation, except it was my husband's parents that were like that with me. Ultimately, I've never felt like they thought I was good enough for him. However, I knew he loved me and that was enough. We've known each other for 20 years, been together 18 years, married for almost 14 of those. He's quiet, shy, not very outgoing or social, and sometimes awkward in social situations, but he has always loved me and treated me amazingly. I could never ask for a better match, so I suggest you block out everyone else's wishes and follow your own heart. My husband and I were meant to be, but would never have this awesome life if we'd listened to others who didn't think we were appropriately matched. Funny thing is, besides his folks, everyone else that commented is single or divorced. Our next story is, boyfriends controlling and clingy parents won't leave us alone. My boyfriend's mother wants to be his #1 priority and make me the side chick. It wasn't always like this. I triggered some huge insecurity in her, and this didn't kick up until she realized I'm not some little flavor of the week girly, and I'm not going away. She's been escalating because I'm a threat to her control over him, so now she's controlling my access to him by giving him a curfew, not allowing sleepovers, and she makes plans that exclude me and doesn't tell him until the last possible minute so he can't invite me. She knows my work schedule, and she's beginning to plan her times with him around the only days I get to see him. She tells him when he can and can't spend time with me because she misses him and she never gets to see him. Cry me a river. They and his 3 other siblings live together. She's just feeling sorry for herself because he has a girlfriend now and she's jealous of the attention I'm getting, playing the victim and acting like I'm taking him away from her, so now she's taking him away from me. She plays the game and is polite to my face, but she's pulling strings behind the scenes that are definitely personal. Another example is that she had a family night, no girlfriends allowed, to watch a movie with him that's fairly new and we were going to watch together because she knew that was our thing without me. She also told me that he can't come to my house, but if I want to see him, I have to spend my gas and drive to see him at their house on her terms. No. I'm not going to have someone tell me when and where I can see my boyfriend. He got a DUI in April and he doesn't get his license back for 2 more months and he's taking a DUI class. Before you judge, he was raised with abusive alcoholic parents who normalized a lot of unhealthy behaviors. But he's growing up as a person and realizing why alcohol is destructive. I believe he needed that wake-up call because I've noticed a shift in his habits and he's becoming a better role model for his younger siblings. I'm proud of him for turning around. However, his restricted license expired and he had to call another number to get it renewed, and he should have gotten it by now. I think his mother intercepted his mail and hid it from him, so he does have to depend on her for rides. Therefore, she controls where he goes and what he does. She's also keeping him naive and disadvantaged so she can keep him dependent on her and have control over him in very sick and insidious ways, giving him bad career advice, etc., and telling him false things about the real world, so he has a simplistic belief about it that's totally not true, and she's setting him up for failure, to her benefit, so he can't leave her. She's so obsessed with him that she'll be the puppet master and manipulate his whole life if it means he ultimately has to come back to obey her. I even caught her lying to me and telling me he wasn't home when he was. She had turned his phone off so he wouldn't hear me calling or texting him. And we had plans that day, so I wanted to know if they were still on or if something had come up. So I gritted my teeth and texted her to ask if he was home, and she told me no. I found out by calling his dad, and he was working on his car in the garage. But she wasn't going to get her butt off the couch to take 2 steps outside and tell him I called or put him on the phone with me. Last night, his phone kept lighting up when we were trying to watch a movie at my house. His dad eventually called him, and it was barely 8 p.m., asking when he was coming home. I wanted so badly to take the phone out of my boyfriend's hand, hold it to my ear, and tell his dad to freak off because his parents know by now that I always get Cinderella home before midnight. This must be so embarrassing for him. But it's infuriating for me to watch him go through this and also have a third party control my adult relationship with my boyfriend, and we're both white Americans. So I don't know how old OP is. I'm assuming that it's not a minor situation. I'm just kind of left wondering, where is he in this whole situation? I get that he's shy, not outgoing or whatnot, but does he recognize these behaviors? What is he actually trying to do to combat this? Like, I get if it frustrates him and he shows frustration personally, but he's also kind of enabling it. He's allowing this to keep going on. Is he afraid of getting kicked out or something? Jawfield commented, "You honestly need to sit your boyfriend down and talk with him about how to deal with her moving forward. My mom tried to control me after I graduated high school, and I left that toxicity hella fast. He is his own person, and his mom and dad need to back the heck off and let him set some ground rules. No one owns anyone. I hope you can help him out somewhat for real though." But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. Now, if you want to hear another absolutely crazy entitled parent story, check out that video on the left. Or if you missed my latest video, check out that video on the right. That said, I'll see you all next time with some more stories.